So Judy needs no introduction, but I'd like to give her just 30 seconds of acknowledgement because she has been taken a significant leadership role in the group leadership process of this work. Um, Not only in this particular presentation, this segment of the meditation, but she has devoted her wisdom and insight into the formulation of the 5-star segment of the meditation, um, establishing a context for these 17 development goals. Go forward, Judy, with much love from Andrea and I in one voice.
Thank you, Martha. So welcome back, friends. I'm here today to share some thoughts about the United Nations as an instrument of the divine plan, representing the group whose service is focused through the UN and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. This is a weekly meditation held since 2019 that recognizes the Sustainable Development Goals as a fractal of the plan. These goals, agreed to by all nations of the world, represent the collective aspirations of humanity, which acknowledges through their creation humanity's interrelatedness with the whole. This is the only collective vision that humanity has articulated, bringing through humanity's highest aspiration and group will. It speaks to right sharing and right human relationships. It places the well-being of humanity and the planet as the central purpose with the planetary economy, and that's all energy, force, and substance being the means for its thriving and evolution. And so we have considered our meditation as supported by the economy of the one life. The following PowerPoint slides that you will see are taken from our meditation. And in addition to these slides are slides with the words of Master DK, both from the reappearance of the Christ and the externalization of the hierarchy, as they pertain to the United Nations. We understand the United Nations is a living organism whose fundamental focus is to be a synthesizing point for all people and nations of the world, and whose aim it is to foster peace. Our meditation works with that intention. As the meditation and the words of Master DK are woven together, references will be cited for anyone who would like to read the context in which the quotes are given. The interweaving will establish the United Nations as an instrument of the divine plan and indicate our group's effort in supporting that expression. With our focus shifting to more primarily the United Nations, our meditation, while still including the economy of the one life, is now referred to as the UN SDG meditation. So the United Nations, we are told by Master DK, was born on the impulse of a Shambhala force at the end of World War II. And that's from Raise an Initiation, page 716. At that time, the Great Invocation was also given. Both were supported in their manifestation by the energy of love and synthesis, which is in keeping with the UN's purpose of establishing a center for the coming together of all nations in a spirit of cooperation. This divine idea is an archetype of and for humanity, a jewel comprised of interpenetrating strands of soul light made up of all nations, groups, and individuals. Right relations and peace are implicit in its oneness. It exists in etheric matter in the mind of God and is the blueprint upon which the United Nations was originally founded. So we read an externalization in the hierarchy. The family of nations, viewed as a unit, its correct and proper interrelation, and the shouldering of responsibility for the one or for the weak must be the realized goal of all national enterprises. The resources of the entire planet must be shared collectively. And it must be increasingly realized that the products of the earth, the gifts of the soil, the intellectual heritage of the nations belong to the whole of mankind and to no one nation exclusively. The specificity of that statement really surprised me when I first read it, and it seemed to me to be the inspiration behind the Sustainable Development Goals. Okay. So the next quote, "The old order must pass. For its abolishing, the United Nations are fighting, but the difficulties are many, even though the spiritual strength of all good men is on their side, and the forces of light are fighting to aid them. Nationalistic spirit constitutes a grave peril to the world. If perpetuated in any form except contributory to the good of humanity as a whole, it will throw the world back into the dark ages." So let me read that last line again. It says, if perpetuated in any form, that's nationalistic spirit, it will be contributory to the good of humanity as a whole, and it will throw the world back into the dark ages. So toward oneness we move. So our meditation is offered by a rotating triangle of members each week, as you experienced just recently. And after opening with an alignment, we begin our meditation each week by stating our purpose in alignment with the purpose of Shambhala. And as we had stated together, their purpose and ours is to support the United Nations as an instrument of the divine plan, to work to refine and reform the United Nations based on the principles of cooperation, freedom, and order, respecting all life. So United Nations is not a complete form, and that's why we're working to refine and reform it. We affirm this foundation as fundamental to all international discourse and to underlie the Sustainable Development Goals. We recognize the UN as a living entity infused by soul light, whose goal is to restore it as a temple of humanity, an instrument of the divine plan. We further work to transmute blockages and resistance to right sharing and right human relations through the 17th Sustainable Development Goal. So we attest this purpose each week as we begin our meditation. So another quote, in the reappearance of the Christ, we further read, "The forces of reconstruction are effective mainly in relation to those entities which we call nations. Nations are the expression today of the mass self-centeredness of people and their instinct to self-preservation. They can, in spite of this, increase the potency of the objectives which the United Nations, at present, theoretically, holds before the eyes of men everywhere." And that theoretical was written just that way in the Master's quote. "The main objective of hierarchy is to distribute these constructive synthesizing energies that the theory of unity may slowly be turned into practice, and the word united may come to have true significance and meaning. It is with this type of energy that the avatar of synthesis is peculiarly allied. For these energies, we are seeking to become the conduit." So each week we call upon the avatar of synthesis, who Master DK tells us is directly connected with unity and the United Nations. And here's a quote. The avatar of synthesis has become, for the time being, Christ's close associate. His function, in unison with the energy of the Christ, is to generate spiritual will in humanity. His potency works within the assembly of the United Nations, the General Assembly, though not in the Security Council. He is there generating a slowly growing will to unity. His activity is necessarily mass activity, for he can only channel his energy through mass consciousness or through a group conscious entity, such as hierarchy, the United Nations, or humanity. The focal point of his efforts and the agent through which distribution of his energies can be made is the new group of world servers. This group is uniquely related to the avatar of synthesis. So I was surprised with this quote because its reference was to the General Assembly, the center in the United Nations, which we think of as the heart. So we understand that words have power. In its archetypal form, the United Nations is held to be the temple of we the people. In support of this idea, we work to transmute and transform the United Nations as an instrument of the plan. To do this, we begin by naming the blockages that impede the flow of light within the United Nations, and then we invoke their opposite, and we also state the refined purpose of each of its centers. This slide also describes the United Nations as a five-pointed star with its 5 centers, which corresponds to the 5-pointed star of both humanity and the Christ. In this relationship, we see the United Nations, humanity, and the Christ in an alignment. So I'll just go over quickly the 5-pointed star, which are the 5 aspects of the United Nations. The office of the Secretary General. We hold that office to radiate magnetic leadership. The General Assembly, that center works to uphold the common good. The Economic and Social Council, its job is to reflect the voices of all nations in support of we the people. The Security Council, to make decisions based on a new equity and harmony. And the International Court of Justice, to anchor the United Nations in law and order within the center we called humanity. So in addition to our transmutation work, each week we send out the following affirmation, which we did earlier. The United Nations serves as an instrument for the working out of the divine plan through democratic participation of all nations, overshadowed by hierarchy, bringing heaven to earth. Let's see. So on this slide, it starts with the word victory. Victory for the United Nations is through a focusing of a one-pointed desire, plus the effort to understand and express the quality of spiritual will. It is that which is the distinct feature of the Shambhala force. This will force is available for right usage, but the power to express it lies in its understanding and group use. So for this, as a group, we are working. And also in the Blue Books, it does share that it is groups that can wield Shambhala force, as well as the force of synthesis from the avatar of synthesis. So our meditative group, united with the new group of world servers, is working to transmit Shambhalic energy. Regarding this, we further read in the Blue Books, the energy emanating from Shambhala has been divided into 2 distinct streams. One stream embodying the dynamic of purpose is now pouring into hierarchy and to its 7 major ashrams. Another stream embodying the dynamic of determination or of enlightened, enthusiastic will is reaching humanity directly via the new group of world servers. Hitherto, a blended stream of Shambhala force has poured into the hierarchy and has streamed in its undifferentiated type and quality into all the groups within hierarchy. Now, the quality of determination, or what the average person understands by the use of the word will, is pouring into the new group of world servers. So Master DK further states that the United Nations, with all its faults, limitations, and weaknesses, and materialism, are focusing the conflict between the dweller and the angel, and more decisively throwing the weight of their effort and aspiration on the side of the angel, thus restoring lost balance and slowly producing on a planetary scale those activities and conditions which will eventually dispel illusion, dissipate glamour, and devitalize prevalent Maya. They are doing this by increased clear thinking of the general public and all nations, by growing ability to conceive ideas in terms of the whole, in terms of desirable world order, and their capacity to discriminate between the forces of light and the potency of evil or materialism. So this quote reinforces the idea that the United Nations is not where it needs to be, but there is a, quote, growing ability to conceive ideas in terms of the whole. For me, this speaks to the Sustainable Development Goals. And as Steve Nation pointed out earlier, we're looking at the future UN too, to support and refine and qualify. So as part of our work, we direct and invoke energies, including the current astrological forces at play, which is updated weekly in our meditation. And so I just offered the astrology slide here. This is one of the astrology notes that we shared and held together most recently. Having stood together in the full moon energies of Gemini, we now utilize its gift of synthesis to distribute what we have received over polarized situations as a step toward brotherhood. So our work also targets a weekly goal. And when Steve spoke of the listing that he gives, we actually look at what meetings are taking place at the United Nations, so we might support the boots on the ground, so to speak, those workers who are doing the work and are part of the new group of world servers, even if they know it not. So to that effort, we stand and take both individual and group responsibility. So this was a current goal, and I'll read it. It's on the bottom here. Standing in the energies of the full moon in Gemini with its emphasis on brotherhood, right relations, and synthesis, and in support of International Day of the United Nations Peacekeepers, we hold Goal 16. Humanity embraces the culture of peace, justice, and strong institutions, and Goal 17. Humanity lives in right relations with all life, partnership for the goals. And that International Day of Peacekeepers was held yesterday. So through the week, I know for myself, I've certainly been beaming as much light and support as I can to all those that are peacekeepers in the world at this time, including those of the United Nations. And we also stand there together and beam that light for 1 minute in group form. So we now read that the United Nations needs to learn to apply the law of love as enunciated in the life of the Christ, and to express the vitality of the truth that no man liveth unto himself, and no nation either. The goal of all human effort is loving understanding, prompted by a program of love and right human relations for all mankind. So it is to this end that we are working to refine and reform the United Nations. We see the law of love being expressed through the Sustainable Development Goals, and standing together, aligned as meditators at the even arm cross, we subjectively move into United Nations meditation room. It is here that we invoke assistance from those evolved spiritual beings and devas to help support the elevation of consciousness in humanity. That elevation is seen as fundamental to peace. Having intuited the highest correspondence to each of the Sustainable Development Goals, the achievement of the goal is understood to be the natural consequence of that evolution. So since we have stated the goals in our earlier meditation, what I thought I would like to do is to ask you to just hold attention again as I read just the higher correspondence to 7 goals, the first 5 and the last 2. It is through energizing the higher correspondence that we focus on the elevation of consciousness in humanity as the primary way for the goals to be met. So here we go. Humanity awakens to soul consciousness. Humanity hungers to unite with the soul as fundamental physical needs are met. Humanity masters the art of healing through energy. Humanity declares the fact of the soul to create, learn, and grow. Humanity unites all identities in oneness. Humanity embraces the culture of peace. And humanity lives in right relationship with all life. So in conclusion, I would like to end with a quote, which I found in both the reappearance of the Christ and the externalization of the hierarchy. So that it was in both books. I think it was really important and it stood out for me. The world is not yet full of love, and few there are who understand the true meaning. But speaking symbolically, when the United Nations has emerged into factual power, the welfare of the world will be assured. What is that welfare but love in action? What is international cooperation but love on a world scale? So through love, using the vehicle of the United Nations, we seek to restore the plan on Earth. So supporting the United Nations is critical at this time for the unfolding of the plan. And if you would like to join us in the meditation that we did earlier, which happens every Sunday at 12 noon Eastern time, and you can figure out what that is for your time zone, you will find the link on the homepage of the 2025 initiative. So thank you for sharing your time and attention. And if there are any thoughts, comments, or questions, I think we have about 8 minutes before we complete. So thank you. And thank you, Karen.
Judy, thank you. One of your great gifts is you never waste a word. You make every word count. And what a joy to be working with the 2 of you and everyone who exerts leadership in the group, including Ben Stock, who put the link directly on the chat so you could join if you wish. This is the time for questions that you may have. We've done our best to link the work that we do as a Christ service. So many of you clearly are already there, and I thank you. But any of your questions are welcomed. Olivia, thank you. Please, can you unmute yourself and show your face, your beautiful face? Olivia always sends greetings from the Dalai Lama, so we must listen to her words.
Oh my gosh. I am just so excited for what you're doing. It's so wonderful. I just, it's just beautiful. And it ties in with something that I'm working with people in spiritual progressive groups. Judy, I mentioned that to you in our CC gathering. And Martha, it's so great to be with you. And Andrea, I want to know you better. But I do have an initiative I'm working on with Steve Farrell of Humanities Team, who's been a speaker before, and Diane Williams, who is the head of the Evolutionary Leaders Group. And we are working to establish a global oneness day at the United Nations. So a United Nations Global Oneness Day. We've had a wonderful meeting with Ambassador Chowdhury, and he suggested a way to take this to the president of the General Assembly and get a quick vote on it, and also to choose a date that is connected with the SDG goals, because that will assure so much wide support. And so we've chosen, I think it's September 21st. Listen, we just had this meeting, so I'm telling you things that aren't set yet, but I wanted you to know because you're doing such magnificent work and providing the subjective support that needs to be there, as well as the outer sharings. It is just magnificent. But if we can get this done, and with your help and everyone's help in our wonderful esoteric group, then this can be spread globally. And this idea of oneness is so key, as we know, to all of our work. Master DK says the one sin is the sin of separativeness, and it is blocking everything. And so if we can help dispel that, and with your efforts, I am just so delighted with what you are doing, but I will be in touch immediately. I'm just back from the Holo Movement Gathering of Oneness in Ibiza and meeting with Chris Morgan, president of Lucis Trust, yesterday or whenever. I'm kind of, I just got here. And so I'm looking forward to being in touch with you real soon, so we can collaborate, cooperate, and work together in this wonderful initiative. So thank you, ladies, so much.
That's
and
wonderful.
Thank you for our wonderful esoteric community that all of us participate in supporting this. So thank you.
Aho.
Oh, and one more thing. And tomorrow, I wasn't sure if I would be back in time, so I recorded a talk on the oneness of humanity. And it is about the visit, presenting the award to the Dalai Lama, the Oneness of Humanity Award in Dharamsala at the end of last year. It's about a film contest on the oneness of humanity, love, kindness, and joy for the Illuminate Film Festival. Announced in April, and then the awards will be next year. And then it is about this initiative for a Global Oneness Day, and with everyone's help. So
now, Olivia, do take the time. I know your schedule's busy, to put in the chat all of the links and the practical applications you came. And thank you for representing group leadership in the Source of Synergy Foundation. You're a wonderful leader. Can I give the last 3 minutes to Tuia? She's got her hand up, and we would love to hear from her. Please go ahead, dear Tuia.
Hi. Wow, I am too so enthusiastic. And do you remember yesterday, or what was the day when I was reading some quotation by Master DK that you are lacking enthusiasm? And I think now, now we are in that mode, because, oh, thank you, ladies. First of all, it is something incredible to see you sitting there in the room. Are you actually honestly there, that it is not any any fake AI thing. You have there. It's fantastic to think.
It's a picture taken by Iris Spellings, that we do have it in our background. But Iris is very much a part of all of this, however subjective. The network is larger than it seems. Go back to you, Tweety.
Okay. Then I missed that when you said, but I have been thinking all the time, there they are. It's fantastic. I just wanted to mention about the Esoteric United Nations, and you ladies are also part of it. We have to think more about that, because I think honestly it is something that we have to put all of our strength to try to help United Nations in this time. It has to get back its power. It is a hierarchical effort. And in our Esoteric United Nations, that is the idea that we are standing behind the meetings as the force to help in these processes. But we see, it's like when we think about United Nations and its handless possibility to affect these horrible things which are going on. That's why we have to help. We have to do everything what we can. You are wonderful. I love you all.
Oh my goodness, and we're exactly on time. All right, for us. So.
You're exactly on time. Thank you. You wonderful trinity of energies in one. Your presentation was extraordinary, and you can see through the comments in the chat how enthusiastic everyone is about what you have brought to the forefront here. So thank you very, very much for this. And